When I saw my son standing at the abyss and looking down, I thought the worst. The wind howled around us, carrying the scent of pine and impending death. When he saw me, his face wasn't the face of the boy I raised. It was a mask of pure agony. He shouted, "Don't come near me, monster. You have ruined my whole life." If you are new here, we tell stories about the complexities of family, the pain of betrayal, and the long, hard road to justice. If you believe that the truth always comes out in the end, please subscribe to the channel. My name is Arthur. I am 72 years old, and until recently, I believed that if you worked hard, loved your family, and paid your taxes, life would treat you with a semblance of fairness. I was wrong. I spent 40 years working in the rail yards of Chicago. It was brutal work. Winters where the steel froze to your gloves, summers where the heat coming off the tracks could melt the rubber soles of your boots. I did it for Sarah, my wife, and for David, our only son. Sarah was the light of my life. She was a school teacher, a woman with infinite patience and a heart that had room for everyone. When she died of ovarian cancer 5 years ago, the light went out. The silence in our 4-bedroom colonial house was deafening. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like her footsteps, but she never appeared. I was drowning in grief, a retired man with too much time and too many memories. David was my anchor. He is a good man, or at least, he was raised to be one. He is soft-spoken, an accountant who prefers numbers to people because numbers don't lie. He met Brenda 3 years ago. From the moment she walked into our lives, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Brenda was beautiful, in a sharp, angular way. She had blonde hair that was always perfectly coiffed, and eyes that were a shade of blue so pale they looked like ice. She worked in marketing, she said. She was charming. She laughed at my jokes. She brought flowers to Sarah's grave. But I saw the way she looked at my house. It wasn't admiration. It was appraisal. She walked through the rooms not like a guest, but like a surveyor. She asked about the square footage. She asked about the neighborhood property values. I brushed it off. I thought I was just being a grumpy old man, protective of his territory. When David and Brenda got married, I paid for the wedding. It cost $40,000. It was an extravagant affair at a country club filled with people I didn't know, friends of Brenda's who looked at me like I was the hired help. I didn't care. Seeing David happy was all that mattered. A year later, the proposal came. I was lonely. My knees were getting bad. The stairs in the Colonial were becoming a daily mountain climb. Brenda sat me down at Sunday dinner, her hand resting gently on David's arm. "Arthur," she said, her voice dripping with honey, "we worry about you. All alone in that big house, it's not safe. And David and we're trying for a baby." My heart leaped. A grandchild. It was the one thing Sarah had wanted more than anything. "We have a plan," Brenda continued. "Sell your house. Move in with us. We have that large, detached garage structure. We can convert it into a luxury in-law suite. You'd have your own kitchen, your own bathroom, your independence. But you'd be right there. You could help raise the baby. We could be a real family." I looked at David. He was beaming. "Dad, it would be perfect," he said. "I wouldn't have to worry about you driving in the snow. We'd be together." I sold the house. I got $450,000 for it. I gave them $385,000. It was everything I had, save for a small emergency fund. It was meant to pay off their mortgage and fund the renovation of the suite. The renovation took 6 months. I oversaw it myself, pouring my own sweat into the drywall and the painting, trying to make it perfect. When I finally moved in, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known since Sarah died. I was home. But the honeymoon period lasted exactly 2 months. The alienation was not an explosion. It was a slow-acting poison. It began with boundaries that shifted like sand dunes. First, it was the dinner invitations. They stopped. When I asked David about it, he said Brenda was tired from work and just wanted quiet evenings. I understood. I retreated to my suite. Then, it was the noise. Brenda complained that my television was too loud. I bought headphones. Then she said she could hear me walking around at night. I bought thicker rugs. Then she said my cooking, simple stews and roasts, made the main house smell old. I stopped cooking. I started eating sandwiches and cold cuts to avoid upsetting her. The turning point was the car. I had a 2015 Ford truck. It was pristine. I kept it parked in the driveway. One morning, Brenda knocked on my door. She didn't wait for me to answer. She just walked in. "Arthur, you need to park on the street," she said. Her voice wasn't sweet anymore. It was flat and commanding. "Why?" I asked. "The driveway fits 4 cars. "It looks cluttery," she said. "We're having clients over tonight. I don't want them seeing that old truck. It lowers the tone." I moved the truck. I parked it 2 blocks away because the street in front of the house required a permit I didn't have. I walked back in the freezing rain. I slipped on the ice and bruised my hip. When I limped past their kitchen window, I saw Brenda watching me. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't frowning. She was just watching, like a scientist observing a rat in a maze. David was oblivious. Or maybe he chose to be. Whenever I tried to talk to him, Brenda was there. She hovered. She answered for him. If I caught him alone in the yard, she would appear within minutes, calling him inside for some urgent task. She began to rewrite history. She would say things like, "Arthur, you forgot to lock the back gate again," when I knew I had locked it. She would say, "You promised to pay the water bill this month," when we had agreed they covered utilities. She was gaslighting me, making me question my own mind. I started to keep a journal. I wrote down every interaction, every time, every date. It was the only way to keep my sanity. Then came the incident with the jewelry. This was the moment the trap snapped shut. I had a velvet box containing Sarah's most precious items. Her engagement ring, a pearl necklace from her mother, and an emerald pendant I had bought her for our 30th anniversary. I kept it in the top drawer of my dresser in the suite. I intended to give it to my future granddaughter. One Tuesday, while they were at work, I went to check the box. It was gone. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I searched the suite. I tore the place apart. Nothing. I waited for them to come home. When I heard their car doors slam, I marched up to the main house. Brenda opened the door. She was wearing the emerald pendant. It sat against her black sweater, gleaming like a stolen eye. I stared at it. "Brenda," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "That is Sarah's." She looked down at the necklace and touched it casually. "Oh, this? David gave it to me. He said you didn't want it anymore." "That is a lie," I snapped. "I never said that. That is for my granddaughter. Take it off." Brenda's face changed. The mask dropped completely. "You ungrateful old leech," she hissed. "We took you in. We gave you a roof. And you begrudge me a piece of jewelry that was gathering dust?" I stepped forward. I did not raise my hand. I did not shout. I simply reached out my hand, palm up. "Give it to me, Brenda. Now!" she screamed. It was a blood-curdling sound, a shriek of manufactured terror. She threw herself backward, crashing into the hallway table. A vase shattered. She fell to the floor, clawing at her own neck, ripping the clasp of the necklace so it broke. "David!" she screamed. "David, help! He's hurting me!" David came running from the study. He saw his wife on the floor, surrounded by broken glass, clutching her neck where a red mark was forming, a mark she had made herself. He saw me standing over her, hand outstretched. "Dad?" David gasped. "What did you do?" "She stole Sarah's necklace," I said, pointing at her. "She's lying, David." "He hit me," Brenda sobbed, crawling toward David. "He grabbed me by the throat." He tried to strangle me to get the necklace. It was a performance worthy of an Academy Award. And my son, my gentle, conflict-avoidant son, bought it. He looked at me with horror. "Get out," he whispered. "David, listen to me." "Get out," he roared, stepping between me and Brenda. "Go back to the suite. Don't you dare come near her again." I retreated. I sat in my suite, shaking. An hour later, the police arrived. Brenda had called them. 2 officers knocked on my door. They were polite but stern. They took my statement. They took hers. Because there were no witnesses and no visible bruising consistent with strangulation, they didn't arrest me. But they issued a warning. They told me to stay away from her. That night, a locksmith arrived. I watched from my window as he changed the locks on the main house. I was now a prisoner in the backyard. The next 3 months were a descent into hell. They cut the power to the suite by accident twice. The hot water heater broke, and they took 3 weeks to fix it. I was showering in freezing water. I was living in a winter coat indoors. I tried to appeal to David. I wrote him letters and slipped them under the door. They were returned unopened. I tried to catch him in the driveway, but he would look away and rush into his car. He looked haggard, thin. She was consuming him too. Then came the final blow, the eviction. I found the note taped to my door. It wasn't a legal document. It was a handwritten letter from Brenda. "Due to your violent behavior and the threat you pose to our family, you have 30 days to vacate the premises. If you are not gone by the 1st of the month, we will have you removed by the sheriff. Do not contact us. Do not approach the house." I had no money. I had given them $385,000. I was living on a small Social Security check that barely covered food and my medication. I had nowhere to go. I broke down. I sat on the floor of the kitchen I had built with my own hands and wept. I wept for Sarah. I wept for the boy I had raised who was now a stranger. I wept for the foolishness of an old man who trusted too much. But tears dry, and when they do, sometimes what is left behind is not despair, but steel. I wiped my face. I put on my coat. I walked 3 miles to the town center. I went to the office of an old friend, Henderson. Henderson is a shark in a cheap suit. He handles estate law, but he knows everyone and everything in town. He listened to me for an hour without interrupting. He took notes on a yellow legal pad. "Arthur," he said finally, taking off his glasses, "you're in a mess. You gifted that money. There's no loan agreement. There's no contract granting you life estate in the property. So I'm homeless?" I asked. Henderson sighed. "Legally, it's an uphill battle, but we have leverage. We can sue for constructive fraud. We can sue for unjust enrichment. We can sue for elder abuse. It will be ugly. It will destroy whatever relationship you have left with your son." "It's already destroyed," I said. "Do it." We filed the lawsuit the next day. We served them with papers demanding the return of the $385,000 or the immediate granting of a deeded life estate in the suite. The reaction was nuclear. David came to my door that night. He didn't knock. He pounded. "Are you insane?" he shouted through the wood. "You're suing us? You're suing your own son?" I opened the door. He looked wrecked. His eyes were red-rimmed. "I am suing for what is mine, David," I said calmly. "I will not be homeless." "Brenda is pregnant!" he screamed. He threw the words at me like a grenade. I froze. "She's 12 weeks along," he said, tears streaming down his face. "And you're putting this stress on her? Do you want to kill your grandchild?" "She's lying, David," I said. I didn't want to say it, but I had to. She lies about everything. He looked at me with pure hatred. "You are a monster," he spat. "I hope you die in this cold, miserable room." He turned and left. That was 2 days ago. Since then, silence. Until this morning. My phone rang at 6 a.m. It was Brenda. Her voice was trembling. "Arthur," she said, "is David with you?" "No," I said. Why would he be? He didn't come home last night, she said. Her panic sounded real this time. We had a fight about the lawsuit. He drove off. He took the gun, Arthur. The gun. My old service revolver I had given him for home protection. Where did he go? I demanded. I don't know, she wailed. He said he couldn't take it anymore. He said he was going to end it. I hung up. I didn't call the police. I knew that would take too long. I knew where he went. There is a place, a cliff overlooking the river gorge about 20 miles north. We used to go there when he was a boy to watch the eagles. It was his place of solace and his place of darkness. I drove my truck like a madman. I ran red lights. I prayed to a God I hadn't spoken to in years. Please, let me be in time. I pulled into the gravel turnout. David's car was there, the driver's door open. And there he was, standing on the ledge. The wind was whipping his coat. He was looking down. This brings us to the moment where the story began. Don't come near me, monster. You've ruined my whole life. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I stepped out of the truck, moving slowly, hands raised. David, I called out, my voice fighting the wind. Please, step back. He turned to face me. The pistol was in his right hand, hanging loosely at his side. He looked like a ghost. Why didn't you just die? He screamed. If you had just died like Mom, we would be happy. Brenda says you're the cancer in our marriage. I swallowed the bile in my throat. I had to be the parent. I had to be the calm in the storm. Brenda is wrong, David. I love you. I just want a place to live. She's leaving me, he sobbed. The words tore out of him. She told me last night. She said if the lawsuit goes through, she's gone. She said she never signed up for a broke husband and a senile father-in-law. She's taking the baby, Dad. She's moving to her sister's in Ohio. Ohio. Something clicked in my brain. A memory of a conversation with Henderson. A detail I had brushed aside. Hold on, I said. David, listen to me. Did she say Ohio? Yes. She's from Dayton. What does it matter? It mattered. It mattered because Henderson had done a preliminary background check on Brenda. He hadn't found much, but he had mentioned that her Social Security number was issued in Ohio, even though she claimed to be from California. I needed to buy time. I needed to shake him out of his emotional spiral with cold, hard logic. David! I shouted. Put the gun down. I have something to tell you. Something about Brenda. I don't want to hear your lies, he yelled, stepping closer to the edge. A loose rock tumbled into the abyss. It's not a lie, I screamed. It's about the money. He paused. The money? I took a step forward. Henderson found something. I lied. Henderson hadn't found it yet, but I had a gut feeling that was screaming at me. I had to gamble everything. She's done this before, David. He frowned, confusion warring with his despair. What? She's a con artist, I shouted, improvising, praying that my intuition was right. The patterns, the isolation, the financial draining, the abuse accusations. It's a script, David. She's running a script. You're crazy, he muttered. Am I? I challenged. Think about it. How quickly did she move in? How quickly did she ask for my money? How quickly did she drive a wedge between us? Did she ever let you see her bank accounts? Did she ever let you meet her family? David stood frozen. The wind ruffled his hair. I could see the gears turning. She said her family was dead, he whispered. But she's moving to her sister's in Ohio? I countered. The color drained from his face. I pressed the advantage. I took another step. David, she doesn't love you. She loves your credit rating. She loves the house. And now that the money is drying up and I'm fighting back, she's cutting her losses. If you jump, she wins. She gets the life insurance. She gets the house free and clear. She gets to play the grieving widow. Do not give her that satisfaction." David looked at the gun in his hand. He looked at the drop. Then he looked at me. "She said the baby isn't mine," he choked out. The final, crushing secret. "We don't know that," I said. "But even if it's true, do you want to die for a lie?" He crumpled. He dropped to his knees in the dirt, the gun falling from his hand. He put his face in his hands and howled. It was a sound of pure devastation. I ran to him. I kicked the gun away. I wrapped my arms around my 40-year-old son and held him while he shook. I rocked him like I did when he was a baby. We stayed there for a long time. When he finally stopped crying, he looked at me. His eyes were dead, but he was alive. "I'm sorry, Dad," he whispered. "We have work to do," I said, helping him up. We drove back to town. I didn't take him home. I took him to Henderson's office. I told Henderson everything. I told him about Ohio. I told him to dig. Henderson put his best private investigator on it, a man named Kowalski. I paid for it with my credit card, maxing it out. We needed the truth. It took 24 hours. We spent the night in a motel. David wouldn't speak. He just stared at the wall. The next afternoon, Henderson called us in. He had a file on his desk. It was thick. "You were right, Arthur," Henderson said. "Her name isn't Brenda. It's Jessica Miller. And she isn't from California. She's from Dayton, Ohio." He opened the file. There were mugshots, 3 of them. Fraud, embezzlement, bigamy. "She has 2 other husbands," Henderson said. "One in Florida, one in Texas. She never divorced the first one. She targets older men or men with assets, isolates them, drains their accounts, and then vanishes. She has outstanding warrants in 2 states. David stared at the photos. It was Brenda. Younger, different hair, but the same cold eyes. "And the pregnancy?" David asked, his voice barely a whisper. Henderson slid a medical report across the desk. "We found this in her trash, or rather, Kowalski did. She went to a clinic last week. The test was negative. She bought the ultrasound image online. It's a common trick. The baby never existed." David stood up. He didn't look sad anymore. He looked dangerous. "Let's go home," he said. We drove to the house. The police were already there. Henderson had called them. They were waiting down the street. We walked into the house. Brenda, Jessica, was in the living room packing boxes. She looked up, startled. When she saw David, she put on her worried face. "David! Thank God! I was so scared. Where have you been?" David walked past her. He didn't even look at her. He went to the kitchen and poured himself a glass of water. "Stop acting, Jessica," I said. She froze. The name hit her like a physical blow. She looked at me, then at David. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. "We know about Florida," David said, his back to her. "We know about Texas. We know about the warrants." She dropped the vase she was holding. It shattered, just like the one she had broken to frame me. "You're lying," she hissed. "The police are outside," I said. Henderson gave them the file. "It's over." She didn't scream this time. She didn't cry. She just stopped. Her face went completely blank. The emotionless mask of a sociopath. She looked at David. "You were always too stupid for me," she said. "It was boring, frankly." David turned around. He looked at her with a calm that terrified me. "Get out," he said. She laughed. A cold, hard sound. "I'm leaving. There's nothing left to take anyway. You 2 pathetic losers deserve each other." She grabbed her purse and walked to the front door. She opened it, expecting to walk to her car. Instead, she walked into 2 uniformed officers. "Jessica Miller," one of them said, "you're under arrest." She fought. She screamed. She cursed us. She cursed the police. I watched as they handcuffed her and put her in the back of the squad car. David watched from the window. He didn't say a word. The aftermath was messy. The legal battle to reclaim the assets was complex. Because Brenda didn't exist, the marriage was annulled. We managed to recover about $50,000 that she hadn't spent yet, hidden in an offshore account the FBI helped us trace. But the rest, over $300,000, was gone. Spent on luxury trips she took alone, clothes, jewelry, and gambling. We were broke. The house was tainted. David couldn't sleep there. He said he saw her ghost in every room. We sold the big house. We sold the in-law suite that had been my prison. With the little money we had left, we bought a fixer-upper, a small two-bedroom ranch on the outskirts of town. It needs work. The roof leaks and the floorboards are warped. But it's ours. David and I lived there together. It took time to rebuild the trust. He carried a lot of guilt. He apologized every day for months. "Dad, how can you forgive me?" he asked one night, sitting on the porch. "I let her treat you like a dog. I almost killed myself." I looked at him. I saw the gray in his hair. I saw the lines around his eyes. "You're my son," I said. "And you were a victim. You don't blame the person who gets mugged. You blame the mugger. David is healing. He's seeing a therapist. He's starting to date again, very cautiously. He checks background references now, which makes us both chuckle darkly. As for me, I'm tired. I'm 72 and I'm starting over. I don't have my retirement fund. I don't have the golden years of leisure I planned. I spend my days sanding floors and painting walls. My back hurts. My hands ache. But I am not unhappy. I look at my son, working beside me, alive. I think about the abyss. I think about how close I came to losing him. I lost my money. I lost my dignity for a while. But I won the war. I saved my family. And to anyone reading this, to any parent who has been shut out, lied about, or cast aside, do not give up. The truth is a slow runner, but it always crosses the finish line. And to the Jessicas of the world, we see you. And we are not as weak as you think. Thank you for reading. If this story resonated with you, please share it. You never know who needs to hear that they are not alone. And remember, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire.
My grandpa's worst really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales like this, hit subscribe.